Now, I've got some great news for you. When you move to cloud technologies, you're not completely throwing out all the design principles and the blueprints and the best practices that you've used forever. No, you're probably going to use most of these in the cloud, but you will expand and you will have the ability to incorporate new and exciting design elements when you're designing and building architectures in Amazon Web Services. In this nugget, let's take a look at the areas of good design principles that we can use and even expand on some of those. Amazon tells us that when we want to engage in design for the cloud, we should break it down into these 5 different areas. We should consider security design principles. We should design for reliability. Reliability means not only just is the resource there, that's more availability. What reliability means is the resource there, but also performing the way it should. And that leads us to the next design principle area, and that's called performance. Is it performing beautifully? And then cost optimization. And finally, the operational characteristics of what we are designing. Are these functions that we have in the cloud operating the way we need them to operate? You'll often refer to these, and you'll hear Amazon do so, as the pillars of great design for our cloud. Now, I'm going to elaborate on security when we, of course, delve into security in this course. I'll elaborate on cost optimization when we do pricing and billing. So let me take a moment and delve into the world of reliability, performance, and operational design characteristics with you. When it comes to that reliability pillar, we want to think about things like, how are we going to test reliability? If we were to have a resource fail, for instance, how long does it take for a new resource to take its place? This is measuring what we call the fault tolerance of our design. Can we automate the fault tolerance? Can we automate the recovery and therefore the reliability so we don't have to manually go in and implement a new resource? Also, with reliability, we start scaling horizontally as Amazon Web Services would recommend. So with Elastic Compute Cloud, for instance, where we are going to have a virtual machine, we don't want to consider really just building bigger virtual machines. Instead, what we can do is use smaller virtual machines and scale them out horizontally. One of the things, too, under the reliability pillar is the fact that we'll no longer have to be guessing at capacity that we need. We know that we can spin up resources on demand as demand increases, so we can eliminate that guessing game. Automation, as I indicated, is a big part of all of this process when we're designing for reliability. And something else that you want to consider in reliability is change management. Since Amazon Web Services makes it really, really simple and gives us that speed of change that we might be looking for, this can cause another issue, and that is that you're changing so fast you can't keep up with it. So how about the pillar of performance? What kind of good design characteristics can we do there? Well, one of the things that we can consider doing is democratizing advanced technologies. What does this mean? This means fancy speak for we're going to be able to take advantage of technologies like artificial intelligence that we never thought we would be able to take advantage of before. So always be pushing the limits with the accessible technology that Amazon Web Services makes possible. Something else that's great from a performance perspective, and I'll elaborate on it in its own nugget, is the global reach of Amazon Web Services. In the first 11 years, or the first, let's say, 10 years of Amazon Web Services, they were able to create 11 different regions across the globe. Now, In the next 3 years, they'll be creating 11 more. So they are so rapidly increasing the number of regions they can service around the planet. And that can really help us with performance because we can locate resources right near our customers. Serverless computing is super popular, and we have a service called Lambda that does this for us, so that's awesome. We don't need to spin up servers to get compute resources anymore. Remember, we can experiment very easily in Amazon Web Services. That can help us with performance. And finally, with Amazon Web Services, we can engage in something called mechanical sympathy. This is such a fun expression. There was a race car driver who said, and I very loosely paraphrase, the race car driver said, you don't need to be an engineer to be a race car driver, but you should have mechanical sympathy, meaning you should understand how the car works. Well, this has to do in tech with software developers understanding the hardware and designing with the hardware in mind. And Amazon Web Services makes that very simple to do. So the last one I wanted to elaborate with you on in this nugget is the operational pillar. And things we can do here is, once again, make sure we are managing changes and even automating changes that we need to make in our infrastructure, making sure that we have a great response time to problems, for instance, that might exist in our infrastructure, and finally, designing to the standards, the best practices that Amazon Web Service makes available to us so that we can ensure a great operational performance of our resources. So when we engage in excellent cloud design, we're doing it around the pillars of security, reliability, performance, cost optimization, and operational design considerations. In this nugget, we expanded on the operational, the performance, and the reliability pillars. We'll look at security in more detail later on, as well as cost optimization. I hope you found this nugget informative, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.